Hello everybody, it's Dr. Stuart Allen Swerdlow.
And Janet Diane Moria Swerdlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the first week of August 2020. And of course, the news is always the same every week.
A little variations
So
here and there.
when I go through all the news and I go through all the different stations and, I'm like, oh, here, that again. It's the same thing over and over and over. So I don't have a lot of news to tell you today. I'll just give you some updates on current, ongoing news. And as you know, Ghislaine Maxwell, of course, is being fluffed up in a prison somewhere, which they claim is in Brooklyn, New York, but I don't really believe that. And according to all the information, it says that Bill Clinton stayed on Jeffrey Epstein's Orgy Island. Did you know it's called Orgy Island?
I believe it.
Or maybe it's Orgy. I don't know.
I don't know. Did you also know, I don't know if you, I'm sure you don't have that in there, but I saw it, that they say that Ellen DeGeneres show that her set was the same thing as his island.
A lot.
Yeah.
In fact, and I didn't have this in the news, but the founder of that pizza company who just recently...
Godfather's Pizza.
Godfather Pizza, Kane was his name, something like that.
Herman Cain.
Herman Cain, yeah. So apparently his pizza boxes had Jeffrey Epstein's island symbol on there as well as a Boys Town logo. So he might have been up to no good as well. But according to the story, it said that Bill Clinton was on this island with two young girls, and Ghislaine said that the ex-president owes her a favor,
And of course
according to unsealed documents.
that was one of the paintings, remember, there were two, I believe.
Of
The
him
other
in a
was,
blue dress and...
well, no, there were two that were in the foyer of the White House that it was removed. Remember, I reported on that a couple of weeks ago. His and I think it was the senior Bush's president. I'm not sure, but those two were removed, and we said at that time, is that a hint of who might be?
There's a lot of
talked
people,
about.
but Bill Clinton stayed on that Caribbean island called Little St. James. Little St. James. And you know who was next door to Little St. James?
Big St. James?
Biden's island.
With the submarine.
You could see the Little St. James from Biden's island. And this is, of course, according to the Epstein accuser, who was known as Virginia Roberts, but who's now known as Giuffre. And she gave a testimony in 2011 that was only made public this past week. So it took 9 years to reveal what she said.
Well, it was sealed. It was sealed.
And 9 years ago, they could have done something about it. And she said that Epstein told her that Clinton owes him a favor, which was why he was on the island, and that orgies were a constant thing on this private island.
That's a shock.
Yeah, yes. And in addition to the Clintons, she also said that she saw Al Gore, Naomi Campbell, Heidi Klum, and they all arrived on that private jet named Lolita Express. Now, the former president, Bill, I deny everything Clinton, said that he denied ever visiting Epstein Island and that he knew nothing. I know nothing about his abuse of young girls. Of course, there are photographs of Bill Clinton in the doorway of the jet descending onto the island.
Well, not only that, but I think he was on their flight log like 27 times.
A lot.
Yeah.
He was at least a couple of dozen times. And Roberts, who goes by the name Giuffre, said that she didn't know what the favor was that he owed them. She also said that Maxwell recruited her in 2000 to be a sexual servant to Epstein and pressured her into having sex with numerous rich or notable men, including Prince Andrew, who also denies everything.
That's another shocker, huh?
Yes, and many U.S. politicians, wealthy entrepreneurs, a famous scientist. Could it possibly be Fauci, the little twerp, and a fashion designer who we don't know who that is. But of course, like I said, there are pictures of Clinton at the door of the plane with Maxwell, and he's listed on the logs at least dozens of times. Now, speaking of crimes, President Trump has alluded to the fact that he wants to delay the elections because of voter fraud. Nobody knows. Now, I understand if he creates or declares a national emergency, he can, or martial law, he can delay, but according to some other politicians, he cannot under any circumstance. So we don't know. But there is voter fraud, and it's already becoming evident because there have been schemes that range from old-fashioned ballot box stuffing to absentee and mail-in ballot fraud. And so people say, oh, the ballot frauds are, the mail-in ballots are no problem. Well, let me give you a list, just a top list of a few. In Philadelphia, Congressman Michael Myers was a Democrat, was charged with stuffing ballot boxes, bribing an elected official, falsifying records, obstructing justice, and voting multiple times.
Busy.
In the same federal election.
Very busy people.
Very, very interesting. In New Jersey, that wonderful place that smells like a sewer, by the way.
It's the Garden Island.
Yeah,
State.
Yeah, remember Saturday Night Live many years ago, they had Rosanna Dana, and she said, and Mr. Richard Thaler from Fort Lee, New Jersey, why do they call it the Garden State? What do they grow there? Weeds? She's right. Anyway. New Jersey mail-in ballot scheme was exposed, including voting fraud, tampering with public records, unauthorized possession of multiple vote-by-mail ballots, and so on. But of course, everyone in New Jersey is named Bugsy and they know it's like that. In West Virginia, a mail carrier in Pendleton County recently admitted to investigators that he altered mail-in voting ballot documents. And it appeared that the voter's ballot choice was changed from Democrat to Republican. Well, we could go longer. That one's okay. In California, there was a 62-year-old man who pled guilty in a scheme to pay money and cigarettes to homeless people in Los Angeles, Skid Row, in exchange for false and forged signatures on ballot petitions and voter registration forms. And he only got a year in jail. Which, you think you get more
I
than
wonder what they put for their address for those homeless people.
that. Skid Row. Box A. Illinois, that famous, wonderful, corrupt state.
Ill and
annoyed. They had, they found a Secretary of State Jesse White disclosed that a programming error in a signature pad at driver services facilities led to 574 non-U.S. citizens accidentally being registered as voters. And at least one, and perhaps as many as 15, non-citizens may have voted in the 2018 election. Alabama. Mayor Albert Melton was convicted of absentee ballot fraud in a mayoral race he won by just 16 votes. He only had to forge 16 votes. And again, back to New Jersey, there was a real estate developer who's a Democrat who was convicted in 2019 of overseeing a scheme to pay low-income residents in Hoboken $50 for their votes in the 2013 election. Wisconsin, a county supervisor, was guilty in an election fraud for falsifying signatures on petitions to qualify for the spring election. Several people whose names appeared on the nomination said they never signed it. Florida, that lovely state where nothing bad ever happens, absentee ballots and fraudulently voted had been voted with them. And in New Mexico, the wife of a mayoral candidate had 13 counts of voter fraud in her husband's 2016 mayoral election, and she was possessing 2 absentee voter ballots, and guess what? He won by 2 votes. Indiana. A police officer was convicted of absentee ballot fraud in an attempt to help his father win a city council election. He filled out false registrations and forged numerous signatures. And in Arizona, they pleaded guilty to attempting to vote in 2 states. During the 2016 election, they voted in Arizona and Nevada, and also charged with falsely signing statements vowing to not vote in the general elections anywhere but Arizona. But of course, that was after they voted in Nevada.
That would be.
So actually, they told the truth once they got to Arizona.
Right.
Yeah, so we already have received ballots here, you and I, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, and we're not registered here, but we got ballots here. And people just across the river that we know received a ballot for a man who died 7 years ago.
I could vote for him, I guess.
Yeah. And then, so there's already fraud 3 months before the election. It's already fraud, okay? So no, mail-in ballots, no, not a good idea. Now, your country.
I'm embarrassed.
You are?
Yeah.
I thought you were Janet.
No.
Anyway, infuriated Seattle residents got on the phone this past week to blast the city council's plan to slash the police funds by 50%, and that could lead to firing of hundreds of officers. And they've already signed a stop defunding petition with over 20,000 signatures in just one day. The reasonable majority of Seattle residents and residents across the region are showing support for law enforcement, saying no more of your unreasonable activism. That's to the mayor and the governor.
20,000 is not that many compared to how big that area
Now,
is.
this is it. According to Democratic Mayor Jenny Durkin. Now, she's the one who said that there were peaceful demonstrations in Capitol Hill, right? So she admitted that Seattle's crime rate soared 525% because of the violence arising from the Capitol Hill occupied protest zone, which she said was peaceful. And the occupied zone, known as CHOP, they cited a spike in narcotics use and violent crime, including rape, robbery, assault, increased gang activity within the occupied area, 22 additional incidents in person-related crime in the area, to include 2 additional homicides, 6 additional robberies, 16 additional aggravated assaults, and 2 non-fatal shootings. So this is what the Chinese Communist Party, Antifa, and George Soros would like for the rest of America. And just as an added bonus, New York City slashed their sanitation budget by $106 million. And now piles of trash are piling up all over New York City streets.
Horrible.
Of course, I don't know if you could tell the difference, but it is piling up.
Horrible.
And that's what you can expect with Mayor Warren Werner Jr., aka de Blasio.
Yeah, that's what they meant. It is just say blah.
Blah,
Yeah.
who's a communist insurgent who supported the Sandinistas
Blah.
in Nicaragua, and then to hide that, he changed his freaking name and married a lesbian black woman. So, now let's go a little bit further south to one of my favorite countries, Ecuador. And guess what? The Chinese are freaking there too. A large fleet of some 260 Chinese fishing vessels have been spotted in the waters surrounding the Galapagos Islands.
That's a lot of Chinese
I
fishing
know.
vessels.
We were in the Galapagos
Yes.
Islands, and I don't know if they could fit 260.
That's what I was thinking. That's a lot.
The Ecuadorian Navy said it is increasing patrolling to ensure that Chinese ships do not enter the exclusive economic zone around the Galapagos Islands, where, of course, Charles Darwin developed his theory. We went to his little hut there, whatever it was there. But of course, the Ecuadorian Navy is no match for the Chinese, you know.
No.
And they said, we are on alert, conducting surveillance, patrolling to avoid an incident such as what happened in 2017. 3 years ago, a Chinese ship was apprehended in the Galapagos Marine Reserve carrying 300 tons of marine wildlife.
They were like taking them away.
Mostly sharks, including the hammerhead, which is near extinction, because they use that for the
They eat
Chinese, stuff. There is a corridor that is in international waters, and that is where their fleet is located. And they're going to ask the Chinese fleet not to return. They say, "You go now," or they say in Spanish. Enforce international agreements protecting migratory species and extend the exclusive economic zone. And the fleet's size and aggressiveness against the marine species is a big threat to the balance of species in the Galapagos. Chinese fishing vessels annually come to the international waters around the Galapagos, but This year, the fleet is significantly larger than before and has come within a closer range of the island. So they're being threatening. I'm just going to say it. China is threatening the entire planet and must be stopped. And I call upon the people of China to rise up and overthrow their demonic leaders. So come what may on that one. Now, we've all heard about these strange seeds that have been popping up in people's mailboxes. You wanted actually me to eat them to see if they were okay. Remember that? So the U.S. federal agencies are investigating suspicious and unsolicited packages of seeds that have been arriving at addresses across America and appear to come from China. Anyone who receives the shipment should hold on to the seeds and packaging and immediately contact officials of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And they said that there's an indication that something other than a brushing scam. So in other words, do you know what a brushing scam is? A brushing scam is where a seller sends unsolicited packages to people so they can put false customer reviews and boost sales. But I don't think that's what this is.
I wouldn't think so.
No. Authorities in Canada and even the UK have been reporting also their citizens receiving these packages. Unauthorized seeds could be the seeds of an invasive plant or carry plant pests, which could be harmful if introduced into Canada. Too late, you already have pests introduced that came from the Middle East. Now, China's foreign ministry on Tuesday said that the problem parcels are forged and not from China. They're not from China. China Post has strictly followed regulations. Of course, doesn't China always follow regulations that ban the sending and receiving of seeds? So the USDA is collecting the seed packages and will test their contents for anything that should be of concern. I think there are concern without testing the contents. And by the way, they have tested the contents, and it turns out the seeds contain flower and vegetable seeds like hibiscus and roses,
You
etc.
like roses.
I might just plant them if I go.
I like hibiscus.
Send me your seeds, people.
You can eat hibiscus.
However, they could be tainted with poison and other chemicals. China. Now, here's the thing. There have been heavy floods in central China,
Right.
and the Three Gorges Dam could burst and flood much of the agricultural area of central China all the way to Shanghai. And so it could very well be that the Chinese are trying to seed the rest of the world with their stuff so that if they lose the set, because China's in big trouble. I mean, God's punishing the China and possibly.
That's what Israel said.
And yeah,
Reported on that.
and you remember, the word, the Hebrew word for China is sin.
Yeah.
Sin. No accident there. And here's just a couple of reports. We have reporters over the world.
Mm-hmm.
We have expansions reporters on the ground in every place in the world, and that's why I get information that other people may not have. And I have a report from Romania. My mother was Romanian. And in Romania, they now have another lockdown. There's a curfew from 11 p.m. onward till the morning, and they had all over the news that the COVID virus is increasing and the people are going to drop dead and blah. The hospitals are packed. So my reporter's mother volunteered in the hospital in a major city in Romania to help, and she was assigned to the COVID unit. Guess what? They have one freaking patient, and the rest of the hospital is empty. Empty. In Lebanon, my reporter from Lebanon, there's no food, there's no electricity, and all of the services and food and wheat is going to Hezbollah to overthrow the Lebanese government and to create another Islamic Republic in conjunction with Syria and guess who? Iran. Poland. Unfortunately, I used to work in Poland a lot, and it was a very nice country, but now it's going back to the communist style. There are rules being imposed that are maybe worse than communist time. And an interesting report I got from Spain is that the people there want communism to come back. What is wrong with you people? What is freaking wrong with you? So something big will happen in August and September. And there's supposed to also be an October surprise. I love surprises.
Well, we may not like this surprise.
But I like this surprise, though it's not a surprise. Guess who's coming? The federal agents are heading to Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Take that, Witchbear.
Got that. All right, my turn.
Yeah, your turn.
I got a few things here. So we're going to start off with Nevada. Because apparently the Douglas County Public Library said that they supported Black Lives Matter. And so the Douglas County Sheriff Don Coverly said, due to your support of Black Lives Matter and the obvious lack of support or trust for the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, please do not feel the need to call 911 for help. They will not go.
Take care of yourselves.
He said, I wish you good luck with disturbances and
That's
lewd
right.
behavior.
That's right.
Since those are just some of the recent calls my office has assisted you with in the past. Numerous Black Lives Matter protests have resulted in violence, property damage, and the closing of local businesses, sometimes permanently. To support this movement is to support violence and to openly ask for it to happen in Douglas County. Now,
Brilliant.
You might have heard about this Walls of Mom thing, supposedly that we're protecting Black Lives Matter. Well, apparently they're an organization, which I didn't realize. Apparently there's a lot of organizations that I'm finding out about. Apparently the Black Lives Matter is now joined with Don't Shoot Portland and Walls of Mom. Now that means they have money, right?
Mentioned they have Soros' bank account.
They sued the Trump administration in a 9-count complaint. These plaintiffs accuse the Department of Homeland Security and other federal agents of violating constitutionally protected rights, including freedom of speech and protest.
Okay, stop right there. There is no constitutional right to attack federal buildings, burn businesses, attack people, and create mayhem. That is not a constitutional right. And they should not only be arrested, but they should be machine gunned down.
But you know what? If they file false, there's a word for it, lawsuits that are like just frivolous lawsuits, they can be sued for filing a frivolous lawsuit.
You know what?
I think
go to Cuba. Go to Cuba or maybe to Cambodia or Vietnam. See what you like there.
Yeah,
or Somalia. Go there.
This group is protesting the use by the federal troops of tear gas, rubber bullets, and other aggressive means. And the litigation was brought in federal court by several law firms, which to me sounds treasonous. It was supported by the group called Protect Democracy Project, which announced the lawsuit just one day after Trump took to the platform to denounce the participants as anarchists and scam artists. And they are calling themselves patriots. They said to the president,
they're not patriots of what? If they were patriots, they would protect American property, not destroy it.
That's right. And guess what? In Milwaukee, more than 100 police agencies are withdrawing from agreements to send personnel for the Democratic National Convention. I think that's supposed to be around the middle of the month.
Well, it's really not going to happen because they don't want Biden to come out and say anything publicly because he would sound.
So apparently, the Milwaukee Fire and Police Commission said, and it had an order out that the police chief, Alfonso Morales, could be fired if he doesn't answer why they used tear gas during the protests in May. So isn't that ridiculous? The original plan was to have 1,000 officers on hand from outside agencies to help with the Democratic convention, but they probably will cancel it and they'll say it's because of
Everything's canceled.
And now, we talked about Black Lives Matter, now we've got Walls of Moms, Don't Shoot Portland. Well, now we have, and I'm sure you've seen this, the Not Effing Around Coalition, who marched through downtown Louisville, and they're calling themselves a highly trained militia, which of course they shot each other accidentally in the staging area.
Good.
And the Grandmaster Jay gave a speech promising to burn the city in 4 weeks if the officers who shot Breonna Taylor aren't arrested. I think they have been arrested, but the point is you still don't threaten the government, in my opinion.
Well,
that's not a good
they
thing.
should burn him down.
Now, this leader, this is the interesting part amongst all of the other interesting parts. Grandmaster Jay says his coalition is made up of international members from France and Jamaica, among other countries. So that's not U.S. citizens.
Yeah, like maybe North Korea and Cuba.
And then he claims he's going to teach people how to police themselves. And it keeps getting more interesting. Now it says he's joined with a white supremacist group called the Bugaloo Boys. Now, they're calling the Not Effing Around Coalition now the NFAC. They're mostly black. And they're the white supremacists, who the Bugaloo Boys, don't like black people.
Right.
Now, so I looked up the Boogaloo just to see.
I looked them up too.
Did you? It says, and they're calling it the Boogaloo movement. Is a loosely organized American far-right anti-government extremist movement, also described as a militia. They're preparing for or seek to incite a second American Civil War, which they will call the Boogaloo. However, they use different terms so that they can get around social media crackdown. And apparently they're heavily armed, and you can tell who they are because they wear military fatigues and Hawaiian shirts. Okay? So we've got another group out there marching around, and I don't know how these groups form without the government knowing what's going on.
It's all mind control crap.
Now, amongst all this craziness, the Democrats voted against a resolution that condemns violence and rioting.
Right, because they want it to be so.
Yes, apparently the Republicans introduced a resolution opposing so-called autonomous zones and the push to defund the police. But they lost the Democratic support where it stated that the importance of law enforcement in America's communities, saying that the law enforcement official, their duty is inherently dangerous and officers put their lives on the line every day, so the Democrats voted against this.
I think that the protesters should go visit Nancy Pelosi's neighborhood and Adam Schiff and Chuck Schumer. They should all visit them and see what happens.
And then speaking of mind control, now we have a female, supposedly writer, who made a little op-ed about how liberating it is for her to wear a mask. She felt liberation instead of restriction. Instead of hiding behind a mask, everybody is equal in the supermarket. How lovely for her.
Goodness. She's a moron.
She says, I like the fact I can now go about my business without being judged for my appearance by others, either male or female. It's like wearing a school uniform.
Okay, she must be very ugly.
That's it. She said, suddenly we are all starting from the same place. Wearing a face mask is a great leveler.
She's probably one of those people you want to wear a mask even if there was no virus.
Maybe she's an Islamic female who's into that. She said, I'm sort of getting to like my new mask. Now listen, it's reusable. You don't want to reuse these masks because after you breathe on them,
you know what?
spit on them,
She should and breathe in all the germs. She should do that.
She said, I like my new mask. It's reusable, of course, so not to contribute to the next problem from the pandemic plastic pollution. Well, the next problem is you're going to have pleurisy and other lung
You know
issues.
what? Good for her.
Now this next thing is so interesting to me because now they want people to wear masks, right? But if you wear a mask and you get sick because you wear the mask, you can now sue the mask maker. So keep that in mind.
You know what? I hope that does happen and they all go out of business and there's no more masks.
Because you can't sue the mask saying it protects you from the virus. Remember this, unless we've talked about this before, unless it's approved by FDA. And there is no FDA approved mask that protects you from the virus. So it's like this legal loop that you can get caught in.
And why don't they just play the video of Dr. Fauci in 2014 saying that there's no scientific evidence that quarantines do anything?
Right. So you want to also remember then that if you're wearing a mask, if you're a mask maker out there and you think this is like a cute, fun thing to do, you can be sued if people get sick while they're wearing your mask. So keep that in mind, you mask makers out there. Don't contribute to the problem. Detroit Lions are now requiring their players to wear microchips in order to track them. They're going to put them in their sweatbands and their wristbands so they can...
In case they run away?
I guess. So it says they'll blink and give audio alerts if you get too close to people outside, and they never explain this, designated tiers. I don't know what that means.
I guess that's part of the social distancing crap.
Maybe. I don't know. And you'll love this one. This is one of your favorite governors, Gavin Newsom. Did you know he was caught wiring $500 million to communist China in a massive
not surprised.
face mask money laundering scheme?
Why is he not in jail?
Now China is, according to this article, so this is according to this article, but although there are facts in here which Newsom has admitted
If
himself.
I wired $5 to China, I'd be arrested.
Probably. Says China fully supports and is possibly even a financial backer of Black Lives Matter
Oh, you think?
and Antifa,
Gee, what a thought.
all part of the Chinese takeover plan.
Yeah.
Now it says here that China is providing full auto weapons upgrades and parts to Black Lives Matter through a smuggling operation that was interdicted by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. This article claims that Newsom has turned California into a port of entry for China to smuggle in weapons and other gear for the soon-to-be second civil war that's planned for America.
That's right.
He claims that this article claims that he's laundering money back and forth with the Chinese government under the guise of coronavirus aid. Now, back in April, the mainstream media was questioning what Newsom was up to because it was revealed back in April that he wired $500 million to an electric car company in China to supposedly purchase N95 masks.
From where did he get the money?
Well, this was the thing. The decision was never voted on or approved by the legislators. And not only that, that was the first of a second installment of another $500 million. And as of the writing of this article, which was just a few days ago, it says that they have never actually arrived. So they never got any of the masks.
Because it wasn't from mass, it was just a payment. Thank you for making me governor of California and keeping me here when you take over.
The Chinese electric car company in question is called BYD, still has the money, never sent the mask. And Newsom admitted personally during a television interview that this had happened, but he refused to provide the details or anything about the agreement.
So why isn't he under arrest?
Why? I don't understand any of this, what's going on in
People
our
of
country.
California, I've warned you about so many things and you've ignored it. Why are you letting this happen?
And
do something.
This is exactly what you just said. According to this article, that he feels, and if the Chinese take over, he'll be protected.
There's
because
40 million
he
of
helped
you
them.
and 1 of him. Do something.
This article claims that he's directly facilitating the transfer of weapons and ammunition from China. It's being stored at the EZN complex in Sacramento, where pallets upon pallets of Chinese munitions are stockpiled.
In California.
And that's what they're claiming in Sacramento. So we'll see.
People of California, if you don't do something, you'll deserve everything you get.
Now, here in Michigan, there's a hospital system. Henry Ford Health System is working with the National Institute of Health and Modernity, Inc. This health system wants 30,000 people in the U.S. as volunteers for the coronavirus and 5,000 in Michigan.
So, in other words, we're looking for people who are low-grade morons who will do anything for money.
The volunteers won't know if they're getting the real shot or a dummy version. What's in the dummy version?
They're dummy.
Right?
They're getting dummy versions.
Then
already.
after 2 doses, scientists will closely track which group experiences more infections as
or
they go.
dead or dies.
So who's going to do this? I don't know. Don't do it.
A dummy.
Yeah, don't do it. And this was curious to me because Bill Gates is now siding with President Trump about opening the schools
It's
in the
a
fall.
scam.
It's got to be a scam, but I don't know why.
I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because then he wants to open the schools, and then 3
Don't
weeks
get
later,
sick.
everybody's sick. We have to close them now.
Get a
Because that's
vaccine.
just what happened in Indiana. A school opened a couple of weeks ago, and now everybody's sick. We got to close it up again.
Okay, so speaking of coronavirus, I want to give you a little bit of background here because I know you're all probably tired of it, but here we go again. And I practice saying the word hydroxychloroquine, otherwise known as HCQ. So back in April 3rd, this article was written. It said that 6,200 physicians in 30 countries found the malaria drug touted by President Trump as the best drug available to treat COVID-19. Okay, at that time, the World Health Organization claimed there's no evidence that it can cure it, but the physicians were still saying it was. And there was an interview by a renowned infectious disease specialist, Dr. Stephen Smith, that called it an absolute game changer. He's seen 100% success in his treatments of seriously ill COVID patients. And he said, I think this is the beginning of the end of the pandemic. I'm very serious. And he said that doctors in Spain, China, France, and Italy were using it. But in the UK and the US, they're not allowed.
In fact, if you even mention it, they'll drop this video.
And in the UK, they have been using it since the 1940s for other things, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis.
Yes.
So,
and here too.
So that's April 3rd. The doctors are calling for it, say we're going to use it. It's going to be the end. June 15th, the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons filed a lawsuit against the Department of Health and Human Services and the FDA for irrational interference with timely access to hydroxychloroquine. And they said, never in history have we seen such a determined effort by the scientific community and pharmaceutical industry to downplay and lie about the use of a successful drug to treat a deadly disease. In the field and in independent testing, hydroxychloroquine displayed amazing results in treating the COVID-19 virus. But there was a great pushback for 2 reasons. The first, because it's safe and inexpensive. The second is because Donald Trump promoted its use. So the so-called experts went to great lengths to lie and smear the use of this drug, as we have discussed previously. That was April 3rd, June 15th, July 23rd. The Association of American Physicians and Surgeons updated this lawsuit. They submitted additional evidence and the hopes of compelling the FDA to relax its restrictions on the use of HCQ to treat COVID-19. It said, now there was a report in May which was published in The Lancet that said there was no benefit HCQ. However, the study was retracted because it's been discovered the company provided its data was very likely fraudulent, supposedly. And here in Michigan, again, Henry Ford Health System found HCQ both very safe, highly effective, reducing mortality by 50%. And countries with underdeveloped healthcare systems attained far lower mortality rate than in the US. And here we can't get it because they used it. They said that the mortality rate in countries that allow access to HCQ is only 1/10 the mortality rate in countries where there's interference with this medication, such as the US. The AAPS General Counsel, Andrew Shafley, said that it was easier to access the drug in the Philippines, Poland, Israel, Turkey, and even Venezuela. Yet the group said that a perfect storm of politics in this presidential election year, along with conflicts of interest at the defendant federal agencies, has resulted in unjustified obstacles to the access of HCQ, which is an inexpensive medication having a track record of more than 75 years of safety. Perhaps what they want is disrupting our political process in order to deter Americans from attending political conventions, even voting, but it is unconstitutional for the FDA to infringe on these constitutional rights by blocking access to this safe medication. So this is happening in front of our noses. The doctors are pleading for this, which we'll get to the next big story in just a second. I want to backtrack and remind you that in December of 2017, Canadian pharmaceutical billionaire couple Barry and Honey Sherman were murdered in a targeted killing. They were found hanging by belts from a railing next to a swimming pool at their Toronto mansion. And still they don't know who did it, and the family hired a private investigator because they complained the police mishandled the case, and their company manufactured hydroxychloroquine for 60 cents a pill, and these people now are dead. So they knew what was coming.
That's right.
Now, I'm sure all of you by now have seen or heard about Dr. Stella Emanuel, MD of Houston, Texas, who was part of Frontline Doctors Summit, which was on the stairs of the Supreme Court, who touted hydroxychloroquine as a cure for coronavirus. Now, as most of you know, and if you don't, you should, that if you say something is a cure, it has to be FDA approved. That's what they use to shut down herbal companies and a lot of other places. So you can't say anything is a cure. So she said it was a cure. So of course that gave them the door opening to go in and close everything down. But in the meantime, this went viral. And then of course they start to make fun of her. She also says that the face masks aren't the only way to stop the transmission, which caused the pandemic. And in just one day, she got tens of millions of views on Facebook. The eldest son of Donald Trump tagged her as a must-watch. Even the president retweeted it. But of course, they took it down, and now they're making fun of her. So she's also a pastor. She made claims. Let's see. Well, let's start with the beginning. So she has a history of being in the news for such bizarre claims. She claims that gynecological problems like cysts and endometriosis are a result of people having sex in their dreams with demons and witches. Then she allegedly said that doctors are using alien DNA in medical treatments along with scientists using it to make a vaccine that would prevent people from being religious. And she said that part of the government is run by reptilians and other aliens.
Well, I agree with all the things she said.
So this is a way to get this out in the public because there's a lot of demonic activity happening right now.
Yeah, every day
and
in the government.
They want to promote black people, but they're taking this lady down all over the place and making fun of her instead of listening to her. The viral speech of hers was given at the White Coat Summit, gathered by some doctors who call themselves America's Frontline Doctors. So they're trying to run those doctors down as well.
They call them quacks on the news.
They call them a lot of things. They say that this particular White Coat Summit was funded by the Tea Party patriots and wealthy Republican donors. Now I want to remind you, her last name Emanuel, which is of course another name for Jesus. Stella in Italian means stars. And apparently in Greek, it also let's see, there is a saint from which this name comes from. The saint is Stylianos. So the name Stella and the masculine Stelio is a derivative of Saint Stylianos. And guess what? Saint Stylianos is the protector of children. So I found that interesting. And speaking of demons, I want to bring this again, go back a few years in history. I'm bringing this up for you again because, again, I'm telling you, we are being attacked by demonic activity here.
Yes, this is a battle between good and evil.
Yes, in fact, I read on the internet that World War III is a spiritual battle, and it's
happening.
It's happening in front of us right now. So this happened a few years ago. I didn't take but it was during the presidential things, and you'll find the date if you look it up. But President Obama mocked conservative radio host Alex Jones, if you remember, for accusing him and Hillary Clinton of being demons. And it's very unusual for a president to even address such a thing, in my opinion. So anyway, President Obama said, I was reading the other day, there's a guy on the radio who apparently, and he's one of Donald Trump's, on his show frequently interjected, who said me and Hillary are demons. This was in a rally, for President Clinton, apparently, Hillary Clinton. It was a rally for Clinton in Greensboro, North Carolina. Jones said, we smell like sulfur, and then he smelled himself in front of the audience, and he said, ain't that something? Democracy does not work if you just say stuff like that. Apparently there are people who believe that stuff. I mean, come on, people. Jones had accused Hillary Clinton and Obama of being literally demonic during a broadcast of his radio show. He said, Clinton is an abject, psychopathic demon from hell.
Well, she is.
That as soon as she gets into power is going to try to destroy the planet.
Yes.
I'm telling you, she's a demon. I'm told her and Obama just stink, stink, stink. You can't wash that evil stuff off, man. I've been told this by high-up folks. They say, listen, Obama and Hillary both smell like sulfur. And they say, listen, she's a frickin' demon and she stinks and so does Obama. And I go like, what? Sulfur. And they said they smell like hell. So I thought that was very interesting because we're talking about demonic activity, and here it was a few years ago, and Jones even offered up to $5,000 to any listener who would call former President Bill Clinton a rapist on national television. So, found that very interesting. And then, while I was researching that, because I wanted to see what that said, I found a book it's called The Demons of Barack H. Obama, How the Gift of Discerning the Spirits Reveals Unseen Forces Influencing American Politics. This is by Gordon James Klingenschmidt, who's PhD, Regent University, a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy and former Navy chaplain. And he said, by objectively observing how a politician's policies and laws may ultimately promote sin and immorality among the people, we can discern that politician actually manifesting demons to destroy a nation. This book examines the policies and actions of Barack H. Obama to compare the moral indicators of his political behavior to biblical standards of ethical morality to help us discern what spirits are actually manifesting inside the soul of the 44th President of the United States. There's a lot of people out there who believe in demonic activity, not just Dr. Stella Emanuel. So there's a lot of bad things going on out there, people. So we go on with demons. What's happening now? If you ask Siri and Google what a demon is, guess what? One of their definitions is a police officer.
No.
Yes. If you ask Siri what is the definition of a demon, the third answer is noun, a police officer. If you type what is a demon into Google Chrome, you're given the choice to see the definition as it relates to police. And dictionary.com, when you ask for the definition of a demon, the sixth definition says Australian and New Zealand informal, archaic as detective or policeman. So, this is what America is teaching its children, that police officers are evil demons. Okay, so we're pointing the finger at the wrong people. Children use these Google search engines for their schoolwork, and if you have an elementary school child searching a police officer, it's going to come up with demon. If you have non-speaking English people, it's going to come up with anybody learning English, it's going to come up with demon. So people that don't know any better are thinking that police are horrible, evil people. And apparently, Law Enforcement Today, which is where I got this article, also said that there was a preschool in Connecticut, a preschool, teaching preschoolers that police officers are more likely to hurt and kill people of color. Right now, people of color are more likely to hurt and kill people of color.
You know, they did a study in 2019 on how many black people were killed by police in the U.S. 9.
Yeah.
The rest were all white.
And also, you also want to remember that the Vatican has a contingent of exorcists and has written a lot on demonology. So it is out there and it is real, and we are being attacked globally, not just here.
That's the truth.
In the UK, there's a judge who allowed a pedophile politician to walk free after he was caught with 1 million child abuse images.
1 million?
1 million. Apparently, there was there was a police investigation in 2017 where they found the ringleaders. They exposed this particular person, and they said this man had been abused as a child, so he likes to pretend he's a young girl who will be abused. So they considered him not a threat, even though he had over 1 million views.
How did he even get 1 million things?
I don't know. They claim people sent them to him.
Even so, 1 million?
1 million. In Germany, they uncovered a major pedophile ring with 30,000 members after a 9-month investigation. And the judge said that the challenges that such crimes pose to the judiciary are enormous. Apparently, the police found adults were sharing child pornography and exchanging advice on how to drug and rape young children and babies. The judge said the acts are not only committed by individual offenders, but in an online network of sympathizers, supporters, assistants, and accomplices. He said they exchange information, pictures, and videos of their deeds. They use the technical possibilities of the internet to communicate undetected with each other under pseudonyms in chat groups. And apparently they've identified 44 victims, including a 3-month-old baby. And they've set up a nationwide task force to identify tens of thousands of suspects. Ridiculous. Horrible. Mark,
If this isn't proof of demonic entities,
yes, that's
I don't
right.
know what is.
Animals don't do these things. These people are worse than animals. They're very sick
They're not, and
people.
that's why
sick.
people, these are demons. These are not people.
That's right.
They're demons and they need to be eliminated.
Now, we have been talking about Tom Hanks and his wife, supposedly, now have Greek citizenship. You might have seen that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, guess what? One thing, Greece, from what I'm reading, does not have extradition rights back to the U.S.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Greece is part of the EU.
Right.
Right now, the EU does not allow American citizens to come in.
Right.
How did he get in there to get his passport?
That would be very interesting to know, wouldn't it?
If that's really him.
And they're claiming, they have a picture, they're claiming that he has a complex filled with underground tunnels. And so I read on Facebook that somebody said that Greece allows pedophiles. So I looked that up. Not exactly the case, but I'll tell you what happened from what I found. It says the Greek government allows pedophiles to be included as a disabled person. And as such, they're entitled to state benefit. And that they were denounced by the National Confederation of Disabled People, because not only does the Greek government have pedophiles now as listed as a disability, they have exhibitionists, kleptomaniacs, pyromaniacs, compulsive gamblers, fetishists, people with fetishes, and sadomasochists as persons entitled to government assistance in Greece.
That's why Greece is bankrupt.
It says, if a person is a pyromaniac or pedophile, they are entitled to disability pay up to 35%, while a diabetic is entitled to only 10% disability. So presumably, a diabetic pedophile could receive 45% disability.
My goodness.
So, it's just ridiculous. So we understand, and the person who wrote this said they understand about treatment for these people, but it's not a disability. They need treatment.
No,
they're sick. So, and Mike Pompeo declared that abortion is not a human right because it takes a human life.
That's right.
So good for you,
Don't
Mike
get
Pompeo.
pregnant. You don't want a kid, don't get pregnant.
In Africa, I love the people in Africa because, again, Bill Gates put his foot in that door 20
By the way,
years
that
ago.
woman Stella, that doc, she's
Yes.
from Cameroon.
Yeah, yes, that's true. I'm glad you mentioned that. Bill Gates, because you can't control them, and that's one of the reasons I try to put black people down, because you cannot control them. They have white people are easier to control than black people. That's why so many whites are involved in the Black Lives Matter movement.
Because they're stupid.
And we know so many black people that don't like the black Lives Movement. It's like
I don't know one black person that supports it.
That's
I don't
right.
know one.
It's like us saying, okay, we're white, there's a Ku Klux Klan, and we don't support
Right.
the Ku Klux Klan.
Exactly.
So most of the normal black people out there do not support Black Lives Matter that know what's really going on out
Basically,
there.
Black Lives Matter is a black version of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yes, exactly. So anyway, in Africa, there's a man called Timothy A. Wise who examined the Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa called AGRA that was started 20 years ago by 2006, so not quite. An international nonprofit launched by guess who, Bill and Melinda Gates and the Rockefeller Foundation. They promised to double yields and incomes for 30 million farming households while cutting food insecurity, or as they call that hunger, in half in 20 African countries by 2020. Well, this guy did a study. He called it False Promises, published mid-July by African and German nonprofits who are saying, get out of the Gates plan. He said that this is his data, which of course the Gates Foundation is saying that is not true, but this guy's data says the number of hungry people in AGRA's 13 focus companies has jumped 30% during the AGRA's well-funded Green Revolution. Productivity increased 29% for maize, but not 100%. And so the crops that were displaced by maize went down. And it said because the maize production increased, incomes and food security have not improved, especially for small-scale farming households. And then, even though the Gates Foundation promised to help millions of smallholder farmers, many of them women, there's no evidence that they did. So Rwanda saw their maize yield increase by 66%. However, weak overall productivity improvements across staple crops as farmers abandoned more nutritious local crops to grow this. And the number of undernourished increased by 13%. So they're telling Gates and AGRA to get out of there. They're claiming that they want to switch to something else and use the money for the way they want to use it, because the Gates Foundation has led to declining soil health, loss of agricultural biodiversity, loss of farmer sovereignty, locking of African farmers into a system that is not designed for their benefit, but for the profits of mostly northern multinational corporations.
They did that in India, they did that in South America.
Yes, and now they're getting kicked out, thank goodness. They're calling it a knee on the neck of Africa, because they're saying a cohort of actors, including philanthro-capitalist aid agencies, governments, academic institutions, and embassies, talk about transforming African agriculture. But what they're doing is creating a market for themselves, cleverly couched in a nice-sounding language. We are told that our seeds are old and have little capacity to give us food. They have to be hybridized and genetically modified to be of use. We are told we need more calories, we need to focus on few crops, we are told we're not using our land effectively, it should be given to those who can do a better job. We are told our knowledge about farming is backward, we need to modernize with the knowledge from the West. We are told we need business to invest billions of dollars, and without these saviors from the North, we cannot feed ourselves. Our world is defined simply by producing more, not in having healthy, nutritious, and culturally appropriate food produced without harming the environment. So get Gates out of Africa.
Well, we know that Ma'am Linda is really the actor Kevin Kline.
Yeah.
So now we need to figure out what woman is playing Bill Gates.
I don't know, Jill Gates. And back in the U.S., did you know that Twitter is allowing Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini to post, but not President Trump?
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, calls for the genocide of the Israeli people and the elimination of Israel, and calls Israel a deadly, cancerous growth to be uprooted and destroyed, long-lasting virus to be uprooted thanks to the determination and faith of the youth. That can be posted on Twitter.
Allowed, right.
They're taking down our president's posts.
Right.
Whether you agree or not, that's freedom of speech for our people is not being allowed. And of course, the drug makers refused to attend a White House meeting after Trump slashed pharmaceutical prices. And Trump is also bringing home almost 12,000 troops from Germany.
Yes, and I wonder why.
Yes.
Maybe we're going to need them here.
That's what I think. and Biden, apparently, while he was, this is the thing, there's things going on all over the internet. Biden was vice president, been in politics for like practically 50 years. And they're saying that Trump's been in for 3 years. He's trying to fix the mess. That's why what we're seeing is such a mess and all this upheaval. So why didn't you do it then? Well, here's a good reason why. Go ahead.
No, whoever Biden picks for vice president, that's who the Democrats want to be for president.
Right.
Because if God forbid he does win the election, within a week he'll be dead or incapacitated, and the vice president, whoever that picked, will be the president.
And who will be the vice president? Does that automatically
Well,
go to Speaker of the House?
Scarily, yes.
Yes, which is?
Nancy Pants.
There you go. So here, according to this, Biden gutted the American coal industry. Apparently, while he was in office, that's what he did. He echoed a similar sentiment in 2020 during his campaign, which he talked about getting rid of fossil fuels and telling coal miners to learn to code. However, believe it or not, while he was in office, he invested in, well, actually his son, Hunter Biden, directed a Bohai Harvest, which inked a contract with Yan Coal, which is a coal company and a Chinese state-owned enterprise, Yankuang Group. So in February of 2016, while Biden was still vice president, and the arrangement was for 9 years, set to expire in 2024, Hunter Biden pledged to divest his stake in the company, but he took him a long time to do it, and he still allegedly owns 10% of the fund.
He's as corrupt as you can be.
Yeah. Bohai Harvest was a $1 billion joint venture between Rosemont Seneca Partners, an investment fund founded by Hunter Biden, and Obama-era Secretary of State John Kerry's stepson in 2009, and the state-owned Bank of China. So it says here that not only that, but Biden claims he's an environmental advocate, but his family directly profits from China's dirty coal industry. And under Biden, he bankrupted the American coal. The industry lost over 80,000 jobs and 400 coal mines in 8 years. That's what he did to the coal industry, and he gave it to China. And Dianne Feinstein, Democrat, California,
Another witch.
last week said China is growing into a respectable nation.
Really?
Yes, and cautioned against holding the country
In
accountable.
what parallel universe is that?
She said it's a potential trading partner. It has pulled tens of millions of people out of poverty in a short period of time, and I deeply
meaning
believe
her.
that. Yes,
It pays her millions
and
of
Hunter
dollars.
Hunter
Right.
Biden. And remember, I reported when A.G. Barr was here in Grand Rapids, he talked about China as the biggest threat to our nation.
It's the threat to the universe.
And she, just last week, Democrat Dianne Feinstein is saying how wonderful China
She
is.
also had a Chinese spy working for her for many years.
And one of your friends, New York City Mayor de Blasio, says what else can go wrong? Now there's apparently a sweltering heat wave, and he's telling the Brooklyn residents they could be hit by widespread power outages.
Right, and the garbage pile got in front of them because he cut all the budgets.
Yeah. And what else can happen? 4 asteroids to shoot past the Earth in one day after an astronaut warns there are 1 million out there that can hit us. Apparently June 30th was World Asteroid Day. Okay,
Oh, missed that one.
We missed that one. World Asteroid Day. So apparently, didn't for some odd reason didn't put his first name, but his last name is Nespoli. He's formerly the agency NASA's oldest active astronaut, prior to his retirement in 2018 at the age of 61.
He's the oldest one?
In 2018, that's what they said. So 61. So 2 years later, now he's 63. He posted a video of an asteroid which passed 3.2 million miles by Earth. But this is what's the interesting part. This was his caption. Between small and big, there are more than 1 million asteroids out there that could hit the Earth. Right now, we are mostly ignoring the probability of a massive one suddenly appearing. It's time to act.
Maybe it'll hit
What does that mean?
Beijing.
Now, this is actually, I have 2 final stories, which to me are very interesting because you might have remembered at the beginning of July, there were 2 planes that collided midair in Idaho and killed everybody. Now, the people there were a lot of witnesses, Lake Coeur d'Alene, we've been there. It said that the witnesses said they saw 2 airplanes flying towards each other, colliding in midair, and they plunged into the lake. And the investigator says we don't have any clue what happened, because the sky wasn't any more crowded than normal when the planes collided. So, okay, I saw that and I thought, wow, that's a shame. But what's interesting is yesterday, did you read there were two more planes collided in Alaska? And it was one of them was being piloted by Alaska State Legislator Gary Knapp. Now, I don't know if he was a Democrat or Republican.
He was Republican.
Republican. Okay, so he was one, and then there was another one with pilots. So what's going on with these small planes? That's two. My query is, will there be a third? Not that I'm looking for it, but if there's...
Well, the question is, what are these people doing that's against the deep state?
And how did they make that happen? Did they take control of their planes?
Of course they can do that.
And did they run them into each other? That's not normal.
They can do that.
How often do you hear two small planes colliding?
Well, it does happen, but it's not common.
No, it's not. It's very uncommon.
Yes.
So I thought that was extremely strange. I do want to remark, this book, I've been asked, most of our books are on Kindle, which you can get them. And this book has some research in here, which we did pull from the internet. We quoted the sources in here, but Kindle won't let us put it up because they said it's free internet information on the internet. So people are saying, how long before it's going to be? I keep checking every day. So this is my problem with putting things online. Even though our books are there, a click of the button and that information can be gone. And originally I used to just put in the links, but the problem is then I would go, even in my news, I go back and that's articles pulled down. That's why we print the article with and we give credit to where we found the information. And most people, like say, if we're researching and we've got all these pages, maybe it's just one paragraph. So we put in the one paragraph in here so you can see where we're looking to tie it into the overall theme of this. So that's why right now that I went back and forth with Kindle. I kind of tried to explain it. I haven't decided what I want to do about it. So this one, we're not sure when and if it's going on Kindle. So if you want this one, which is a part of our series, which I've been telling you about, the King Bee, Template of God Mind, here it is, and Heights of Spirituality. It's part of this series, so all the other books you can get on Kindle. That one you cannot, and that is the reason why I'm explaining to you.
Just more censorship.
It's more censorship, as we know. And also they want you to have the information. We talk about the 72 names of God. We talk about the 10 Sephirot. We talk about the Kabbalah. We talk about a lot of things in our books and on our website right now. I'm taking people through the 72 names of God on my blog. So a lot of information that can actually help you. Get your membership, expansions.com, because that's where we keep you informed with all these things on a daily basis. We can only say so much when we're talking here. Say no to mind control. We've got a series of books. We've got lots of things that can help you. You got to help yourself. Okay, what else we got going on?
Well, the main thing is right now is that you need to register for the Global Night Symposium 2020, which will be October 30th to November 1 in Sterling Heights, Michigan. And so that link is on
it's on our website, and if you have any questions,
how do they look? What would it be under?
It's on our SMOC page. It's
under
also
events?
under events. If you have any questions, contact customer support at expansions.com. If any people say, where do I begin? What do I do? We have a massive website. We have so much information, especially once you get on the member side. If you have any issues on how to navigate, contact Patricia. She's fabulous. Customer support, expansions.com. If you have any questions about this, she'll help guide you.
Mm-hmm. And you're starting up your webinars in September.
Well, most likely. I haven't put that out there yet, but most likely we'll start up again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's really all I have.
So please like, comment, share, subscribe. We don't know how long we'll be up or down. We do take it over onto Vimeo. Vimeo has been... actually took one of ours down as censored.
Because they're not controlled by YouTube.
We've heard about BitChute. BitChute is also censored, and now there's we keep moving.
I
from
just
platforms.
sent you a link to another new platform that does not censor it whatsoever.
Well, sooner or later they all will. It's just a matter of time.
And so are they on our website?
Which one?
All our videos.
They are, but as I was saying, that even Vimeo censored one of ours, which we didn't think that they would do that, and they did. So, watch, look at them, share with all your friends, and do your own work. Because you never know when things are going to go up or down.
One word that we say, or if we mention something they don't like, that's the end of it.
That's right. That's what it is.
There's no freedom of speech in the United States or anywhere in the world.
And that's what we're trying to stop by working on ourselves.
It's a shame what's happened to the United States. And again, I call upon President Trump and I call upon all those who support him to do something about this immediately.
And remember to learn your history, because that's what dictates what happens now. So we have Stuart's fascinating autobiography, Montauk, The Alien Connection. We have True World History. We have Galactic History. We have so much information on our site. As I tell you so many times, we've been doing this for decades. We have a lot to offer you, but you're the one that has to choose the tools and use them.
And again, I call upon you, everyone watching this video, do something.
Yeah, I agree. And get your membership expansions.com.
Don't complain if you're not doing anything.
Absolutely.
Bye for now.